This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 1809, Comic Talk.
Welcome to Comic Geek Speak. I'm Ian Levinstein.
I'm Shane Kelly.
I'm Adam Murdo.
No, I'm Chris Everly.
I totally was focused on Daffy and forgot.
Shane is holding Lego Daffy, informing us that it's Rabbit Thievin in front of his camera, and
Now he's got a new Flint.
mesmerized me.
See, that's just it. Some of these Joe figures, they don't exactly look, but you still know who they are.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no.
Totally Flint. The shotgun,
Yeah.
the bandoliers. Come on.
Yep. The beret.
Sometimes distractions are well worth it, and when they're Daffy distractions, they're well worth it.
Yes. I ordered a few of these off of the Lego site. I have just about all of them now.
Excellent.
There's 12 of them. I don't get minifigures anymore because they're too expensive. They're $5 a piece now. But the Looney Tunes ones I couldn't pass up, and it's a nice small set. So
I just like hearing you talk about how you don't do figures anymore, and then each comic talk you have a new figure to talk about. So.
But it's usually G.I. Joe.
I know.
So I am doing those.
I don't do figures except for these few
Except for
hundred.
G.I. Joe.
Exactly.
Those are the ones I actively go after.
And if Mask ever returns.
Oh my God. I would sell pints of blood to get that.
But since we're talking action
Wow.
figures, I'm Ian Variant 2 here with the second new pair of glasses for video folks here. I figured I'd change it up a little bit.
By the way, and you're looking especially dashing. I've noticed the gray now on both sides of the beard.
Mhm.
Just wait till it gets to all over the beard.
Very
Oh, yeah.
becoming, sir. Very becoming.
I'm getting more and more Reed Richards as time goes by.
Oh,
so I'm,
Yeah, I've totally got Reed Richards going on the sides. Yeah.
But I like the way it's going in. I like that it kind of makes me feel old, but not too old at this point.
No, you look good, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And welcome one and all to the show, a comic talk episode, a nice timely comic talk, as it's been a little while since we've talked some comics, and what better way to do it than with these fine folks here. And of course, as usual, we are sponsored by you, the listeners, over at patreon.com/comicgeekspeak. 106 patrons and $311 per month we are up to now. And that is nothing to sneeze at, and we really, really do appreciate it.
Hell yeah.
Any of you guys who put your money down. We know it's still weird times out there, and $1 a month is all we ask, and the fact that 106 of you guys do so is pretty damn awesome. So here's to you. Patreon.com/comicgeekspeak. And anybody who wants to do old school donations, we do still get the occasional email asking, hey, do you guys still take PayPal? I'm like, yeah, we'll still do that. So anybody who doesn't do that, just head on over to the Comic Geek Speak page, and you can find out there how to do your donations. And of course, patreon.com/comic timing for my own personal stuff. For the editing of the show and also the comic timing stuff. Hope to have another episode out within the next couple of weeks. It's a busy time around here, but we'll try to make it work, because there's a lot to talk about. A lot. Some of which we'll talk about tonight, but still, a lot. So what you guys been up to?
I'm just embracing the clarity of CGS.
The clarity. I like it.
All is right with the world.
Hey.
And if we get at least one hey out of Shane, then I'm 100. Man, if Hank Azaria ever has to quit, they know where to go.
Sometimes I get a pretty good Barney out too, but not great.
So shall we begin with Marvel movies, as there's been some major announcements out of there since last we spoke.
Lead on, brother. Lead on.
Yep. A very emotional I guess I'd say emotional piece was put out.
I would say schmaltzy, but that's just
Schmaltzy. Schmaltzy is another way of putting it. Yes, with Stan's backing on it, probably taken from multiple sources. To be entirely honest with you, I don't think he's ever said all of those words strung together.
At least it didn't sound very cut. I am the next person to. That would have been poor.
Yes, that is perfectly fair. But they went ahead and put out this video talking about how awesome Marvel movies are, which is pretty much what the video was. It's like, we've come out with all this other stuff, and guess what? We're still going to come out with stuff.
There's more.
But I have to admit that as a lifelong Marvelite, and Murd's right, it was totally schmaltzy, but I actually got emotional. my eyes glistened a little bit.
Well,
it celebrates the movies.
Hey, yo, movie! Yeah, we're gonna be terrific, starring everybody.
It did
the world.
There'll be comedy.
Dane on fire, fantastic. Vaudeville.
Oh my god, it did remind me a bit of those old days, but it also served as a way to kind of sneakily let us know that a bunch of release dates had changed, which we kind of expected anyway. But it gave us the names of some of the upcoming movies in the process. Specifically, Black Panther Wakanda Forever is now scheduled for release on July 8th, 2022. All they gave was the title. That's it. No footage or anything like that, even though I think they're actually filming this now, if I remember correctly. If not, they're pretty damn close to production. But we're going to assume it's going to be Shuri and everybody else. With maybe some file footage if they have it. If not, then just a memorial for Chadwick Boseman.
I actually kind of hope they don't use file footage and just do some kind of memorial this time.
I kind of agree with you. Yeah, I mean, I didn't mind the Leia stuff when they went that route in Star Wars, but
no, I didn't either. But
it was a bit obvious just because I'd seen the deleted scenes that those were taken from, and actually seeing the deleted scenes first for Last Jedi and then seeing them repurposed as new scenes for Rise of Skywalker made it a little bit more obvious.
And some of that to me was because it was, well, they probably could have fixed it in my mind for what I would have liked to have seen, but it was so far gone that they wanted to bring it to conclusion in a way that sort of made sense. Not everybody would agree with that, but I still think it worked well enough. Whereas this, there's a good bit of distance between when Chadwick Boseman passed away and the filming and coming out of this.
Right.
And who's directing that film?
That's a good question, actually. Let me look
is it Coogler or no?
I think Coogler may be returning.
I hope so.
Let me double check that, because I know Taika's returning for Thor. That much I know. Yes, Wakanda Forever director Ryan Coogler. That is the case. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. I really have mixed feelings. Normally, I would say just at some point recast the character, because that's what happens in comics and movies. But I don't know. This one, I'd be happy if they didn't recast Black Panther for a very long time.
And frankly, I don't think they're going to for a very long time.
I hope not.
Until we get the eventual reboot, I don't think it's really going to happen.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's going to be easy enough to have him cast in one way or another in this, and then either talk about the spirit realm like they have for the Black Panther films already, or figure something else out. It's just there's no reason to recast. There's a wealth of characters.
And I get, I say I don't want them to use footage and don't want to recast and do all this stuff, but in some ways it works good for other movies where they, not that I've seen them, but the Fast and Furious movies did that with Paul Walker in some way, and we already talked about Carrie Fisher in Star Wars. I mean, if it's done well and it serves a purpose, not just for flash in the pants, hey, we got him in the movie. If it's done very well, I'd be very pleased with it. I say this stuff with a grain of salt until I see what happens.
Of course.
I just have faith in the director.
So. The first one was fantastic.
Yep. The other announcements, one of which I will put an image of on the screen here. We did get our first footage of Chloe Zhao's Eternals, including the Angelina Jolie reveal, which had been revealed that she was going to be in it, but we hadn't seen any footage yet. And honestly, what I see of it so far, like with the giant like landscapes and all that they revealed in those first couple of shots. This looks like it's going to be an epic movie.
Well, I mean, Ian, you hit the nail on the head. If they're going to do the Eternals right, that's the word you have to apply. It has to be
Yeah.
epic.
Mhm.
It has to be.
Yep.
Anything less, you're just not doing the Eternals.
Sure.
So,
Yeah. Especially for a property that not many people are familiar with. Because I mean, outside of Marvelites, like who the hell's ever heard of the Eternals? Like it's not exactly, when you think of Marvel, you go, oh yeah, Spider-Man, I've heard of him. Or,
Yeah.
oh yeah, X-Men, I've heard of him. You don't go, oh yeah, Eternals, I've heard of them. Like,
Now, do you think?
Sorry, Shane, go ahead.
Do you think this is the next level, like a step up for how Guardians of the Galaxy was in that respect? Because I mean, I knew of them because I know Marvel Comics, but I didn't know them. And
Right.
then for everybody to love the way that one came out, the first Guardians of the Galaxy, this to me seems very much in that same vein, where hardly anybody outside of Marvel comic readers knows these characters, and if it's epic enough, it's going to blow you away.
oh yeah.
Well, it's one of Kirby's great concepts when he returned to Marvel in the 70s. I mean, this is where we had the Celestials, for example. So if they go that route, it will be mind-blowing. Because the concepts Kirby introduced in the 70s of Marvel were mind-blowing.
100%.
So
yeah.
I can't wait.
And think of how Kirby Thor Ragnarok was. Like they're definitely embracing the Kirby nature of Marvel Comics properties as we move forward here. And this is the perfect vehicle for it, and no question about it.
Plus, it's going to have the Black Knight.
Yes, that is true. Yeah, haven't seen him yet, but
No, very excited
we did
that.
see Kamal Nanjiani and his amazing biceps in the trailer. My God, it's weird seeing him buff. Just for years of like, I mean, I've been following Kamal's history and him being in things for years now, and just seeing him at all strength up and stuff like that. He looks like a completely different person. It's amazing.
Wait, is this the comedian?
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Let me see if I can find
which character is he playing?
Kamal Nanjiani is playing in Eternals. Let's see. He is if I can get the full cast list in here. Well, first off, to show how buff he's gotten, there was just one image that they showed initially of him all buffed out that I'll share before I find out even which character he's playing. Like, yeah, the man,
God.
the man has not eaten a carb. Yeah, he didn't eat a carb for like a year and a half in order to get that. Like, he definitely went full Jackman on.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
He looks like a comic book character now.
Yeah.
But let me get the name of the character that he's playing specifically here. As I bring up good old IMDb. Go ahead, Murd.
I'm throwing my chips on Ransack the Reject.
Let's see. He is Kingo.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Yeah, he's playing Kingo, and Kit Harington is playing Dane Whitman.
Yep.
Black Knight.
Yep. Right from Game of Thrones.
Plus Selma Hayek as Ajak, Angelina Jolie as Thena, Gemma Chan as Cersei, and Icarus is Richard Madden. So it's a stacked cast. It really is. Yeah.
Have they cast a Sprite yet?
Yes, they have actually. Leah McHugh is playing Sprite.
All right.
Yep. Known for not a lot because that's a youngin, but was in American Woman, the TV series in 2018. Shockingly, I have not seen that. So go figure. But this is something that I'm very much looking forward to, and that's coming out on November 5th. So we don't have that much longer to wait. Perhaps we'll all be in theaters for it. We shall see.
I know, it's terrible. It's already middle of May. That's horrible. like I feel like it's January. Zoom.
Oh,
just to tell the audience, if you don't know, sometimes Shane has these existential crisis moments on air, and this is one of them. So
it's only going to get worse as I approach 50.
Let me
right there with you, brother.
Let me bring this one up as well, because this was the other big reveal of the trailer, that Captain Marvel 2 will be known as The Marvels. And it's going to be released on November 11th, 2022. And somewhere Shazam is going, what about me?
Yeah.
Glad they didn't call it the Marvel family, because then we'd have a fight on our hands.
Yes, 100. And I would be right there with you, Murd, because I'd be, come on.
Now, just looking at that typeset,
Mhm.
the S,
Mhm.
Yes.
is that Captain Marvel, Ms. Marvel S?
Mm.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep,
That's,
it's basically what Kamala Khan has on her chest.
Okay. To a certain extent, it looks a little bit like Sentry, and I'm like,
Oh,
Yeah,
Sentry.
that
Wow.
wouldn't make
Ooh.
sense.
Yeah, no, they're definitely going for Kamala there, because
Okay.
her series will have been out for at least a couple of months before this the Marvels movie is coming out.
Okay.
So the public will be familiar with her because, Disney Plus series and what have you, and then rolling right into the movie.
Sure.
Yep. And Monica will be in this also. So there's going to be 3 Marvels to choose from. 2 captains and a Ms. Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad they're going this route. I mean, there've been the naysayers out there that have been trying to say that, well, clearly this means that Captain Marvel can't carry her own movie, but at the same time, I think it's just really just building the legacy, even further and going that route. Yeah, no, the internet's a very just.
It's not like there aren't more pressing issues in the world right now.
Right.
Oh yeah,
I had no problem with Captain Marvel. I enjoyed it.
I had no problem with it either. Frankly,
Oh boy.
it's just there's always going to be people, whether you like it or not, that dump on a property for
I
one.
guess I have so much other crap that I actually have to worry about. Entertainment's not one of them.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. But what are you gonna do? Yep. Yeah. So this is all the stuff, and they also teased at the end yet again the 4 logo.
Yep.
That there will be a Fantastic Four movie coming in Phase 4 that they just haven't announced yet.
Well, that's the big missing piece of this whole cinematic universe, because as we all know, everything originates with the Fantastic Four. It's interesting to see how they apply them now in this movie, and I hope finally, eventually, we will get a proper interpretation of Doctor Doom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Third time's the charm.
Yeah.
So,
I really hope they bought Tony Stark's old
that's always been your
building.
your
That's
theory,
always been, man.
Yeah. It's a great idea.
It makes perfect sense, Shane.
Yeah.
I mean, just have that be the Baxter Building, and, and bada bing, bada boom, or even Four Freedoms
Plaza. Yep. Either way.
Yeah.
I almost wiped from my memory. I just flashed back to the last Fantastic Four film that they made. I was with our dear friends Ryan and Dan in Pittsburgh.
Has the PTSD faded yet, Chris?
I didn't watch that one
because Ian brought it back for a little bit, but it's in a way it's a good memory, because I remember we went to a theater that served booze, and Ryan had to drink as much as possible because that movie was so insufferable, and it had a great Michael B. Jordan, tremendous actor, was in it. But,
Now, first off, it's called Fant4stick. It's not called the Fantastic Four, because that was the worst font decision they've ever made. to put the 4 in the middle like that, like all my friends called it Fant4stick, and I can't get it out of my head. Like
that was a rough 2 hours.
I still have not seen it, sir.
Me either.
You can go to your grave without seeing it. Trust me.
Yeah.
If you ever taken my word on anything, Ian, take it on that.
I will believe you. Yes.
I do get a little bit of a kick out of the Invisible Woman marrying and having a kid with the Winter Soldier in The Martian. I do get a kick out of that.
That's right.
Oh my god!
That was a good flick.
Being flown in the ship by what's his name from Ant-Man.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. He's a great character.
Michael Pena.
Michael Pena. Yeah.
Michael Pena. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That and I agree. The book was fantastic. The movie was wonderful. Yeah. That's a great movie to watch. The Martian.
So Ian, it's just the tease. There's no more information about FF at all, of course, right?
No. Yeah, I doubt we'll hear anything possibly until next San Diego Comic-Con in whatever form that's going to take.
And I think if you would have blinked at that moment, you would have missed it, because it was a very subtle fade in, right out kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think overall, they know we're chomping at the bit for it, but the only thing we know is who's directing it, and that's John Watt, the director of the first Spider-Man MCU movie.
Oh, okay.
That he's attached. That could easily change, because just because the director is attached doesn't necessarily mean he's going to wind up doing it. But as of now, he is the director of choice. So looking forward to seeing what.
And there's no word on rebooting the X-Men, correct?
No. There've been rumors afloat all over the place, none of which substantiated, and I think they're probably all bull that Rogue may wind up showing up in the Marvels. Considering her history.
Oh yeah.
Marvel, but it
It's
all
done right.
It all seems like fan speculation to me. I don't think of all characters that show up first, I don't think it's going to be Rogue.
That's why they'll do it.
Good point. Yeah, I'll give you that.
Well, we've seen Madripoor in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, so that's our first big hint.
Oh, hey, speaking of which, we might as well talk about it. I mean,
sensational.
It's done. I might be a little bit more lukewarm on it than you, Chris.
All right.
We're gonna have to get into deep discussion on it now. Spoilers at this point for anybody who did not finish Falcon and Winter Soldier, but it's a couple weeks old now, and I figure it's best to get our full take on the series just in time for Loki to come out in like 3 weeks, which will be coming out on Wednesdays, by the way.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah, they announced.
Well, that's going to scrub my Friday nights.
A jab at Loki's adoptive father, I guess, that it's coming out on his day, Woden's day.
Yes!
Murd.
And here I was thinking, like, why is it not coming out on Thor's day? But yes, and a very, very good point, Murd. So there you go. But yeah, what did we think of the whole bag? Since we did discuss, I think the first 2 episodes were out when we talked about it the first time around. Shane, I'll start off with you. Thoughts on the whole run?
I really enjoyed it. There are only 2 things that I was moderately disappointed in. At this point, I don't like where they took Sharon Carter, because I wanted her to be better than that for her aunt.
Yeah.
And for how her character really is and what I've always known of her. Not to say that can't happen, but just the way it ended, I was like, I really wanted her to be like good in there helping. The other thing I was lukewarm on was I actually did not like Falcon's Captain America outfit for having so much white in it, but that's just because I don't like that much white. I would have rather more red and blue in it and subtle white. Because this is going to be really odd. How dirty will that thing get so quickly? I don't wear white T-shirts. I don't wear white.
Oh, I love Shane.
Shirts. If I wear a suit, I don't usually wear a white button-down shirt because I can't stand it. One wrong move and it's toast. So yeah, that's. Otherwise, it looked fantastic. But that's I had a problem with there so much white on it. I would have rather a lot more red and blue, a little bit of white.
Fair enough. I mean, the initial design was sort of going off of.
It's right from the comic.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah, and the comic design itself, which I brought up here, it is almost entirely spot on. But it's taken from a lot of the costume that Captain America wore in Winter Soldier.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of modded from that.
You change the arms at the elbow to a different color, like maybe put the red in there, and then flip the shoulder and the piece across his chest to a blue or a red or something, and leave the white in the midsection. Fine, but yeah, that's what I would have changed.
Makes sense. I think I'll get my take out now just to get it over with. These Disney Plus series still kind of have some of my problems with the Netflix series, and that's pacing. This series, to me, it was 7 episodes?
6
episodes. Yeah, could have easily been 4. There were major, or hell, it could have even been 8 had they built out some of the stories even further. But a lot of it felt rushed and unfortunately at times predictable. And that's something that I am kind of done with my TV. I want to be surprised in at least some ways, but we all knew we were coming here from the beginning. And yes, I knew it was a character building exercise to get Falcon from, I have the shield, I don't want the shield, I'm going to have the shield, I'm Captain America. Like, yes, it's the building process. It just felt clunky at times, and I felt like they could have done it a little bit better. Not to say I didn't enjoy it, because I did actually enjoy a large amount of this. It's just that some of the character building gets lost in trying to fit that many stories into 6 episodes. And I 100% agree with you, Shane, on Sharon. It's nearly character assassination. Like, it's just, they just decided to make her a bad guy, and rather than even give us any like real build for it, it's just like, oh hey, yeah, guess what, I'm the power broker, which I guessed from like episode 2 that, okay, so clearly they're going to be bringing in Sharon as the power broker. Oh no, she's working with us, everything's fine. Yeah, she's the power broker, right? No, everything's fine. But she's she hired Batroc, right? Oh no, everything's fine. Yeah, she's the power broker. It felt like it needed another swerve. It was way too predictable in that sense. But I like the stuff with Sam for the most part, and the chemistry between him and Bucky is outstanding.
Yeah.
And I never thought I'd care that much about building a frickin' boat. And yet those were the best parts of it for me. And also the Bradley stuff, I think worked really well. I think Martian Manhunter played an amazing Isaiah Bradley. I'll leave my initial thoughts at that and head on over to Murd.
Okay, well, yeah, I think I'm sharing in your lukewarmth here, Ian. Yeah, it was a heck of a ride for most of the way through. Your comments about, I'll grant you your comments about the pacing. I didn't really sense it as the 6 episodes were wearing on, but in hindsight, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff they could have, omitted or spun off into its own little side projects. But I agree with you about the chemistry between the 2 title characters and how that kind of developed from obvious resentment and sibling rivalry at the beginning to just coming together as in a more harmonious fraternal relationship by the end. Good arc for both of them. How Sam came into his own and spread his wings as Captain America. And I understand Shane's concerns about the costume, but it is just what the design was.
Oh, it absolutely is.
Although I do find myself encountering the same difficulty in embracing a guy with wings as Captain America here on film as I did in the comics. They could have at least covered up the top of Sam's head and put the little wings on the cowl and the A on the forehead. To make it a little more obvious to me that I'm looking at Captain America as opposed to just a guy with wings throwing a shield around.
Yeah.
Because that's pretty serious mental block there. I see a man with wings. The best I can think of that person is like the American Eagle or something. But but that neither here nor there. And definitely the reveal of Sharon as power broker was disappointing to me as well, because like Shane, I didn't really want to see Sharon turn out to be the big bad. It would have been nicer if she could have simply been redeemed, and that's probably going to be a part of her longer arc here. The whole idea of her becoming the bad guy and is a part of her. It's part of kind of a vengeance narrative for her, because her government, for whom she fought and struggled, cast her aside, and now she's kind of developed her own strength and her own base of power outside of said government, and now she's going to get a little bit of her own back by subverting the government from within for her own gain. This is her, in Emily Van Camp's view, this is her growing up a little bit. And honestly, I didn't think the character needed it. But yeah, so like Shane, I'm sorry that they have to tarnish her to accomplish this. And like Ian, I'm sorry that they did the freaking obvious thing and just to have her be the power broker. I was expecting and hoping the power broker to be used as a reveal for a character from the comics that we hadn't seen yet. Yep. I didn't expect it was going to be just, Curtis Jackson, who is who the, Curtis, I'm not 50 Cent Jackson from the Marvel universe of the comics. But at the same time, I also expected it would be somebody other than, just Sharon Carter. I was kind of hoping against hope that maybe it'd even be somebody from like the X-Men universe, like maybe somebody with an eye patch who hangs out in Madripoor a lot.
Sure.
But no, just Sharon Carter. So on that. And then, episode 6 had a couple of high points. But it had a number of other low points for me, and one of them being the Sharon Carter reveal, and Sam giving that extended lecture to all the senators standing around on how they shouldn't be referring to the Flag Smashers as terrorists anymore, which lost me completely because, whatever their ideals, however benevolent their motives may have been, they killed innocent people to arrive, to make those things reality. So yes, terrorists they are, and I kind of resent them putting these words in Sam's mouth. But yeah. Also, the final episode was if you're into action, there was certainly plenty of that. I was hoping for, I don't know, a little bit more character at the end. I don't know. And the changing of the title from Falcon and Winter Soldier to Captain America and Winter Soldier. I know some people were complaining online about Bucky still being stuck as the Winter Soldier at the end when Sam got rebranded as Captain America. And my response to that is I'm fine with that, actually. Bucky's deal was never really shedding the Winter Soldier as a name. It was no longer being a brainwashed weapon of death for a foreign power. As far as I'm concerned, he's kind of reclaiming the Winter Soldier for American patriotism, because the term Winter Soldier is a riff on the Sunshine Patriot and the Summer Soldier, which is directly from Thomas Paine's pro-revolution pamphlets of the 1770s. So yeah, it's nothing wrong with him continuing to call himself the Winter Soldier as long as he's healed psychologically and he can reclaim that term from the bad use to which Hydra put it. Oh yeah, and one more thing I wanted to get out there is that I loved Daniel Bruhl as Zemo this time around.
Yeah.
He was great in I guess it was the Captain America Civil War movie. But he's much better this time around because he got to breathe a little bit. He got to demonstrate flex his muscles as a nobleman from Sokovia. He is
Plus
a
he had
baron
that
after
coat.
all. He has his own manservant and his own wealth and resources. And it's just nice seeing it, not only putting on the purple balaclava, but also just being generally snarky and slimy and serpentine and just masterfully manipulative and just playing both ends against the middle to accomplish his own ends. It's very much the Zemo we know in that respect. Plus that scene where he gets to do his dancey dance in nightclub, which has become a popular meme, I've heard.
Yep.
Yes, I think there's like a 10-hour version of it on YouTube where it's just looping over and over again. The only problem I had with Zemo in this show, Murd, was them trusting him in the first place, and for that matter, the man killed a guy, and then both Falcon and Winter Soldier afterwards are just like, "That's our Zemo," and then we keep on going afterwards, and it just. I don't know. That was easily the weakest part of the entire damn thing for me. It didn't feel right. It feels like there should have been more ramifications for that than just Dora Milaje coming to sweep him up.
Now, speaking of ramifications, how about that cliffhanger with John Walker?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that was extremely powerful and a major oh shit moment. But I'm kind of sorry that they had to eliminate Lamar Hoskins to get us there. I mean, I really was not expecting that to happen. I was hoping it wouldn't happen. I mean, there are few enough viable characters of color to be transferred from the Marvel Comics universe to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm kind of sorry that they had to burn that one just to get that emotional payoff.
Yeah.
And it was a big one, but still. Hopefully Lamar won't stay dead. I mean, this is still a Marvel project we're talking about here. Death is notoriously impermanent. Maybe it'll be revealed eventually that he'd already taken the super soldier serum himself, and that made him able to survive that crippling spinal injury he was dealt. But still, yeah, that's that moment with Walker and his shield and the blood spattering on it, and that had people talking at the water coolers the next day, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Or the following.
Oh my God. Anyway. Yep. It's like, oh wow, they went there. Okay. All right, Chris, what do you got?
Well, gentlemen, I loved it.
Of course.
Now, having said that, I concur with a lot of your points. First of all, Ian, it was obvious Sharon was the power broker.
Yeah.
It was very
I was
obvious.
just hoping it wasn't going to be at the end.
And
exactly.
That I mean, not that it's some great mental feat, but I predicted it, very quickly. Having said that, because I understand all of your perspective on that, the way I chose to look at it here, let me go jump out. The reason why I love this particular series so much is that they really took a deep dive into the comics for this particular series. And Mark Gruenwald, wherever you are, I hope you're smiling, because a lot of it is based on work that he did.
Yeah.
And for that reason alone, like I kept like my wife's rolling her eyes. I'm like, oh, this is from that one, and that's from that one. Like I was really loving just the reverence they clearly showed for the source material in this particular series. in terms of Sharon, I thought back, and this also goes back to the classic Mark Waid, Ron Garney run they did. I think it was prior to that Heroes debacle that Marvel did years ago.
It definitely was.
Yeah. And in that story, because we all know that back years before Sharon died in the comic, she was apparently incinerated, and Cap saw it and thought she was dead. And then we find out that she was kind of lost, behind the line, so to speak, and operating kind of on her own, and she was very bitter about it.
She did things to survive.
Yes.
Oh no.
Love Murd. And Steve kind of reawakened her sort of her ideals, of course, and he kind of slowly brings her back into the fold. Now, I think what they're going to do here, kind of like what Shane said, I wouldn't be surprised if they make this a long arc for her. Well, eventually that she comes to grips with what she's become, and I'm sure Sam's going to be involved in this, and that she'll kind of claw her way back.
Yeah.
I'm just glad they brought Sharon Carter back, because I thought
I am too.
They didn't use her enough in
No.
the 2 films she appeared in.
No.
And they gave it like she kissed Steve and then she just kind of vanished, and because they brought the whole thing back in with Peggy and all that. But so I love the actress. I think she's great in the role, and I hope that they do follow through with that. And my guess is they will.
And that's part of my problem is I can't see her doing all this and thinking, "Yep, Aunt Peggy would be happy." Like,
well, yeah,
there'd be that turmoil that I just wanted addressed a little bit, and I would have felt better about it if she just would have mentioned it, something.
And I think Shane, to go back to Ian's point, because this is only 6 episodes, I think that my guess is you are going to see that, because how could they not address that? Basically?
Yeah. And Chris, can I also comment real quick?
Yeah.
Sorry, you piggybacking off of what you said about it only being 6 episodes. Think of just how little Sharon Carter we got in the movies, period.
Oh, exactly. That's why I was happy to see her back. Yeah.
Right. But to then have this swerve or this turn in such a fashion where we barely even got to know the hero.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's disappointing.
And some of it is we know where she comes from.
I mean, I grant you that it probably, I mean, I could easily see how they could have handled it in a way that maybe might be more satisfying. My take on it is, well, it is jarring. But I'm hopeful that they're going to do her justice in a longer arc. Now, the other thing I like Murd said, Zemo was amazing.
Yeah.
And when he put on that coat,
yes,
with the fur collar, and I'm like, oh, okay, they have it, and then the mask, but forget even like that. Like they unlike Sharon's character, they gave Zemo with kind of the room to be the Zemo we know from the books.
Yes.
I mean, granted, he's not a Nazi, but that's incidental, but it's the same character though. And it was just such a delight to see him manipulating the entire situation to his advantage, right up to at the end when his manservant blows up the van, and I can't wait to see what they do with that more with that. He's wonderful in that role. I also really loved the whole way they approach the Flag Smashers in this series. I really enjoyed, because they're addressing the part of the blip that's so crying out with like how this is going to address how this is going to affect the entire world, right? And I'm glad that they went with that, and they're starting to pursue the obvious like geopolitical ramifications of all these people reappearing and what that's going to mean on so many different levels. Everything from, well, what if you were flying an airplane when you disappeared, to how is this going to affect borders and politics and economic. I mean, it's when you think about it, it's an enormous concept. And I like how they touched upon that and how they used it. They took the Flag Smasher concept from the comics, and I think they nicely applied it to the post Thanos reality. And Murr's points about Sam's lecture at the end, I'm looking at it from a different perspective. I think it was important because Sam, like Steve, is asserting the fact that Captain America is a symbol of the ideals of this country that we often fail to reach. Not he's an icon of those ideals rather than a figure, a symbol of the U.S. government. And I think when Murd's right. I mean, when was her name Carly, that character?
Mm-hmm. Carly
Yeah.
Morgenthau.
When she blows up the building earlier on, she's irredeemable after that because she just murdered innocent people who are working in that building. That's it. I mean, you are a terrorist. Said that, I think Sam's speech was important because what I took away from the flag smasher concept was that, and I think this is important when you get to these types of issues, it made you sit back and go, huh, maybe she has a point.
Mhm.
Because how much damage has nationalism done to the human race? I mean, how many millions and millions of people have died in the 20th century alone because of nationalistic movements and sentiment and so forth? And she's basically saying, you know what? Forget all that. Let's focus on all these people and their needs and where they've ended up and so forth, and how they need to be helped and so forth and so on. So I appreciated that moment because that was Sam, like Steve, saying, well, wait a minute. I'm not here. I'm not wearing this flag because I'm, rah U.S. government, here to remind us of what are we supposed to stand for, and maybe we should be listening to all these different points of view. I think in many ways that's the essence of Captain America. And again, I always go back to the notion that one man's terrorist is another person's freedom fighter.
Yeah.
So if you're a Palestinian, not to get political at the moment, but you're going to have a different point of view than maybe someone who's an Israeli or someone who's an American. And I think sometimes we need to understand that point of view.
Yeah.
So I think that's, I just mentioned that because that's in the news right now, obviously. And I think that's suffering is suffering. And I think Sam in that moment was trying to remind people of that, and that people are in that world, in that universe, are suffering because of the ramifications of the blip. So I loved all that. And John Walker, Ian, I remember you commented, I think you commented in a post that you felt that the turnaround with him was too abrupt.
Yeah. Right? Well, and I do still kind of feel that way. By the way, I will just share an image of how amazing they got the U.S. agent.
Fantastic.
At the very end. Yeah. Really looking forward to him coming back in one form or another. Especially also for someone who we're going to have to mention in another, few seconds here once I find the image that I had.
You mean Val?
Yes, indeed.
Oh, amazing.
Yes. Oh my God,
I was hoping to hear Chris's reaction to Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Yes.
I was like jumping up and down in my living room.
Oh my God. and apparently she was originally supposed to appear first in Black Widow. But due to the delays, they decided to introduce her first here. And I think they've now since canned the scenes that she had filmed for Black Widow, since they're kind of like, also rans with the introduction here. But either way, I feel she worked really well with.
Yeah, and a couple things. So first, like Ian, to piggyback, I was thinking back to your comment.
Yes,
because I hadn't watched the episode yet, so I saw your post. I was wondering, I'm interested to see like what I think about that.
Yeah.
So I think if they hadn't had the scene where he and Battlestar are having drinks, and the audience strongly infers that he has PTSD from his experiences in Afghanistan, then it wouldn't have worked, and it was too abrupt. But because they had that scene, which I think was crucial, you appreciate then why he snaps the way he does, because he's clearly struggling from whatever his experiences were in combat in Afghanistan. And I think Wyatt Russell was really well cast in the role.
Agreed. Yes.
And I like how they didn't because in the comic, John Walker is really unlikable when he first appears. Like he's not likable at all. He's an antipathetic character. And what I like here is they made him more complicated in that you don't dislike him initially. Like you can see he's trying to fill these impossible shoes. Shay made a great point in the episode. As a soldier, he's probably ordered to do that by the government because he's a serving officer.
Yeah.
And I think that key moment where he's like, all right, do I save the diplomats in the bus or do I go get revenge? And he saves the diplomats in the bus. And I'm really interested to see how they're going to apply him. Bringing Val in, it was, and having it being Julia Louis-Dreyfus was fantastic.
Yeah.
And I love how they made fun of her ridiculously long name from the comic, and they kind of dispensed with that. They acknowledged that they dispensed with it, which was great.
Yeah.
But I really want to see if they're going to establish she has a history with Nick Fury, which
Oh
I
my
would love to see her
I hope
starring with
so.
Samuel L. Jackson. That'd
Yeah.
be fantastic.
Well, especially
So-
especially with Secret Invasion coming up,
Yeah.
and that's going to have a lot of Sam Jackson in it. If it has Julia Louis-Dreyfus in it as well, I think that would be an excellent.
Oh,
I think we need a 60s set Marvel Cinematic Universe,
oh, Murd.
Franco style.
Oh,
Val
God,
and
yes.
Fury, and maybe Ant-Man and the Wasp too.
Yeah,
that'd be
yeah.
awesome.
Yes,
Great,
yes,
great
Now-
idea.
yes.
Now think about this also though with John Walker and taking the super soldier serum. Just what we know from Dr. Erskine in the first Avenger. The serum not only gives you all these abilities, but enhances what you are at your core. And here you're taking John Walker, who is struggling to be Captain America, one, probably because he was ordered to, but two, to live up to that expectation, not only in his own eyes, but in everybody else's eyes as well.
Yep.
Once he took the serum, that's just going to intensify that and make him a little bit more off balance than he probably should be. And then the tragedy happens with his partner.
Yeah.
And then we go on a roller coaster from there.
Oh yeah.
So I
And
really took it as
yeah.
the serum kind of really pushing him over the envelope in addition to the PTSD.
That could be Shane. And I you know, when he kills that one member of the Flag Smashers, I was thinking, I wonder what like the general audience is reacting to this, because that was a powerful moment. Like,
Yeah.
because he decapitates the guy,
Yeah.
right? Like they don't show it, but that's what he did. Go ahead, Ian.
But can I also then talk about the up and downs of the series? The fact that we see this happen, we see this horrible thing happen, and then by the last episode, they're teaming up with him again, and they seem pretty chummy. It just, I don't know, that part rubbed me probably the wrong way as well.
Again, that could be a fallout from the fact that you only had 6 episodes
Yeah,
to work with.
exactly.
I mean, I agree. I think that's a valid point. I'm being optimistic in that a lot of this stuff they're going to realize in more detail
Sure.
in the future. And to piggyback on the point you guys made, for me the best part of this show though was the chemistry between Sam and Bucky.
So
Oh,
good.
yeah.
That was the best part of the whole show, because
Absolutely.
you really believe their sense of brotherhood by the end, and they brought both characters on arcs, which they really kind of started in previous films.
Mhm.
And it's wonderful to see those 2 arcs come to fruition. By the way, bringing the Wakandans into it was awesome, by the way, as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Did that one scene where you flash back to Bucky being cured, I that part got me. I absolutely cried at that part. He was so good at that scene.
Yeah.
I just that was one of my favorite parts of the whole
And
series.
you knew he was going to go back at the end and speak to the old gentleman whose son that he had killed.
Mhm.
And
Oh yeah.
that was
Heartbreaking.
It was great to have those 2 arcs, and I agree with Ian. I love how they changed the title at the end. I think it's appropriate.
Yeah.
And also, as you guys mentioned, the other wonderful part of the show was bringing in the Isaiah Bradley character. That was really well done.
Excellent.
Like that whole sequence. I mean, the weight of the history and the sense of betrayal, really well acted, really well written. One of the highlights of the series, without question.
I can remember that episode, and when you saw who it was in the house, before they even said anything about who he was, name or anything, I kind of gasped. And my son Ben sitting beside me goes, "Well, who's that?" I'm like, "Oh my God, just wait! You can't wait to see who this is going to turn out to be."
And that's
That
what I was
was
getting at, Shane.
Huge.
This show did so many reverent deep dives into different facets of the Captain America comic history, which I really appreciated.
And just how different Carl Lumbly looked, because like I hadn't seen that long ago. Like I'd seen him in Supergirl, because they brought him on as Martian Manhunter's father on that show. And he looks more like what I imagine in my head Carl Lumbly looking like, Alias era Carl Lumbly, just a little bit older. And what they decided to do with him here, grizzling him out a lot more, and he even had clearly been lifting weights for this role, in some form or another, and just like his frame looked different, and yet, he carried that character so beautifully.
Well, and you're right, Ian, because he looked like what he is, a powerful man. Like that he exuded that in that. Oh, I forgot he was an Alias. Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, for years, and I mean, I know him best as the voice again.
Right.
Was a Martian
Manhunter, sure.
But, animated that is.
Vibe, Fire and Ice, Booster Gold. It's one of my favorite lines.
Yes, and of course, Chacos, always Chacos. But yeah, it's just that I think it definitely could have used another episode or two, and it didn't have it. And frankly, it is what it is that way. You know, if they'd had more to work with to build some of these stories out a little further, so be it. And we'll never know how many rewrites happened in this
Right.
from pre-COVID to
Right.
post-COVID in
Yeah.
filming, because I've heard a lot of stuff online. It's all conjecture. Nothing's been confirmed that there's a pandemic storyline that they had to completely write out of the show,
Hmm.
and which led to a lot of rewrites and retakes. And frankly, you could even sort of see like the whole Carly arc and the death of her mother figure.
Right. Good
Like,
point.
it's very unexplained in this.
Yeah.
And they don't even say exactly what she's dying of. I mean, yeah, sure, could have just been cancer, but I feel like that may have been leading to something in another version of the story
Yeah.
that we'll never get to see. But again, that's just the way it happens, you know?
Now, the last thing that I wanted to say, Ian, you had said earlier about it being predictable, and I won't disagree.
Yeah.
I expected it to be predictable. I expected it to be more like your macaroni and cheese comfort food,
Yes.
because really this was supposed to come out first to begin with.
Sure.
But what I wanted to be different and new, I got out of WandaVision. This I wanted to be a little bit more predictable, and Loki I expect to be a little bit off the wall, and then we'll see where life goes from there. But this I wanted it to be predictable in some ways. Some of it was too predictable, but I was expecting comfort food out of this series.
And the
not
other thing, I'm sorry, Shane.
groundbreaking.
And the other thing to note that was not predictable, that was a hoot, was have them introduce Madripoor, as you guys noted earlier.
Yes.
And I hope they're going to mine that for all it's worth, because that's like the Casablanca of the Marvel universe. Like you
Oh.
have to explore Madripoor
Yeah.
in much greater detail. So that was a treat and a half.
Truth be told, I expected some reference to the Hellfire Club to show up somewhere on there with all the criminality on
That's a good
Madripoor.
point. Yep.
I just a nod, a sign. I don't know, just something. I was just waiting for it. It wouldn't have surprised me if some mention of it or any of those characters that make up the core of it would have been mentioned.
Well, setting it up in any way means that we could very easily get it down the road once they do introduce those mutants of ours. So we shall see. But I actually, now that you mention it, Shane, it's a very good point about being predictable in a good way. Is kind of, not a bad thing, especially coming out of WandaVision. And I think if it had been reversed, though, WandaVision would have been that much even further of a joy for me, because it would have been completely out of left field.
Yeah. And this would have been the gateway into the Disney Plus world for a lot of people. And not that it still wasn't great the way it all turned out, but I just think if it would have been the original way where Falcon and Winter Soldier came out first, it just would have had a more expected flow to what I was thinking would happen. Mm-hmm. Switching these two really doesn't mean a whole lot, but it did have ramifications for Doctor Strange and what's to come from that side of the Marvel universe now.
And I'll just continue to say I'm looking forward to Loki a lot.
Yeah.
The more I see about it, the more it looks like it's going to be one heck of a show and my type of show. So very much.
Time Variance Authority.
Yeah,
I thought this would go.
No, me either.
Well, now we've gotten Sword. We've gotten the Time Variance Authority. Like we're going deep, man. We're going deep into Marvel lore, and I am all for it.
What date does that debut?
June 6th.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think June 6th. Yeah.
All right.
Yep. So that's let's see, it's June 6th a Wednesday, then June 7th, because June 7th.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. All right. Let's give it some freaking swears. Why not? Chris, how many?
Oh, 4.5.
Murd?
I'll say 4.
Yeah, 3.75 to a 4 for me. Somewhere in that range. Shane?
I go 4.25.
Okay. All right. That'll do. I forget. Did I talk about the fact that I finally saw New Mutants?
No.
If you didn't, we can talk about it at the same time, Ian, because I've recently seen it as well.
Spoil away.
Excellent. That I did not watch yet.
Okay.
It's okay. Go for it.
No. There's nothing to spoil, so it's fine. Because it's the end of a universe. Like anything that I say about it is just not going to matter. Because of it shows that they were trying so hard for this to be something.
Wait, is this in the original X-Men movie universe still?
Yes,
Oh,
it
it
Yes,
is.
the
Oh, I didn't
last
realize that.
installment in the original X-Men.
I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah, Chris, this movie. Let me see what the original release date for this movie was supposed to be. As I
it was
look
a
up here on
long time ago.
I know it was delayed. Yeah.
Yeah, it was originally supposed to come out. Let's see, post production. There were planned reshoots in 2018 that never wound up happening. The initial cut of the movie was made in 2017.
Wow.
And there were multiple release dates for this thing. And then when the
Well, I remember seeing posters in the theater for over a couple of years, actually.
there was a trailer. There was a first trailer that came out back in 2018 for this thing, and it just sat in a can. But other things that sat in a can that we'll never get to see. There is apparently a scene that was filmed at one point for this film that was supposed to introduce Mr. Sinister.
Really?
Wow.
It was supposed to be the end credits stinger that was then going to lead to the eventual next X-Men movie, which obviously didn't wind up happening. And supposedly John Hamm was supposed to be
Wow.
Mr. Sinister.
Wow.
Good choice.
Like he actually filmed. He was filmed as Mr. Sinister.
So the lore says. Whether or not that's just internet, shenanigans, or whether or not it is actually sitting in a can somewhere, so be it. But there was no end credit scene to this movie whatsoever. It just happened and then it was over.
So how was it, gentlemen?
It just happened and then it was over.
Exactly. You took the words right out of my mouth, my friend. It's a mess.
Okay.
And it's but at the same time, there's some very positive things going on here. Like the portrayal of Illyana, I thought was actually really good. They have Lockheed be a stuffed animal that she carries around that we then get to see as CGI a puppet. Yes, thank you. And then eventually turns into a CGI dragon, and we get to see it do its sting at times, and that's good. But then there's other characters that just really never get the time of day. And also the decision to make this a horror film and then kind of like abort it halfway. Like you could tell the director wanted to go full horror with this thing.
Well, who are the members of the New Mutants in the film besides Illyana?
Well, there's Sunspot and Cannonball and Wolfsbane and Moonstar and Illyana. And am I leaving anybody out?
No, I think
so. They go for some of the original characters then.
Yes,
right.
But then they commit character assassination on Dr. Cecilia Reyes.
Yes, and I knew that would annoy you, Ian, because she's part of that forgotten generation of X people from Joe Kelly's time.
Yep.
She's part of Maggot's class.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Yes.
And
Dr. Reyes was never fond of being an X-Man, but she was not, the villainous.
Oh, they make her a villain. Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
She's kind of the New Mutants handler. We're led to think that this is all happening in this secret facility that's training people to be X-Men, but then slowly it's revealed that they're being raised for, whatever project we saw in the Logan movie.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Just as raising mutant kids to be living.
So does this happen before the Logan movie?
Yes.
Safely.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So
It's
the
set in
X-Men,
present.
the X-Men still exist in this.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and mind you, this is the Essex Corporation behind this, so they were definitely, going towards Mr. Sinister even further.
Okay.
But that's one of my biggest problems with the X franchise in general, is that sometimes, and look, I understand sometimes you just take the name and like general premise of a character and just go completely left field and what have you, but most of the time when they do it, they don't do a good job of that. Going back to what they've done with Warren Worthington twice in the X-Men movies.
One of my favorite characters.
Exactly. First time around, tried to make him cookie cutter angel, didn't do a very good job of it. And then in Apocalypse, we get another one, and that just
Cage Fighter Angel.
Yeah, Cage Fighter for no reason, and that was not very good at all. And here we are with Dr. Cecilia Reyes again. We're like, there's no reason for her to be Dr. Cecilia Reyes. She could have been any character that had a force field ability. And yet instead, they go and use this character that, again, barely got even used in the comics, but has never been a villain, as Murd said, and used her as the catalyst of this and didn't even really give her too much of a personality in the process. And when your villain, where your quote unquote villain, because I don't even think she's really the villain in this. The villain in this is Danny's psyche more than anything else. It just doesn't. It doesn't really work. And they try to do Demon Bear. You don't go Demon Bear off the bat with New Mutants. Like, you got to work your way up to that, I feel like. And yeah, it's just, again, a mess more than anything else. They tried really hard.
Yeah, you can sense a certain fanish affection behind the way a lot of these characters were developed. And I do think that I give it an A for character presentation because the characters were recognizable, except for Dr. Reyes, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I thought they were extremely well cast. And so we get a lot of the characters just kind of the kids hanging around in this creepy old hospital, Millbury Hall, it's called, which is another hint that Mr. Sinister's behind all this, because he often used the alias Nathan Millbury, and I think his full name is Nathaniel Millbury Essex. Yeah. But anyway, the kids hang around, they play like truth and dare with each other, they get to know one another. So character-wise, it's fairly strong. Plot-wise, there's really very little happening at all. As Ian has said, it is a mess in that regard.
Yeah.
And I can kind of see what you said about the director being forced to change course midstream and back away from the horror elements, because I remember that trailer that aired in theaters in 2018, and it certainly seemed to me like the intent was to go full-on psychological horror with a couple of mutant comic book characters thrown in.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm not sure I would have enjoyed that movie all that much either.
Well, and that's when I saw that, I was like, I don't know that that's my bag.
Yeah. The overall tone of this thing, it didn't feel so much like a superhero movie or a horror movie to me. It felt more than anything else, like a made-for-television Canadian co-production from the 70s, like aimed at a teen audience. It feels like something I should have seen on Nickelodeon on special delivery on weekends in the 80s.
Let's watch Degrassi High then.
I was going to say it's
like that, yeah.
Degrassi Mutants is an excellent way of putting this. Yeah, and I mean, I think Maisie Williams as Wolfsbane was inspired casting as well. I think she did a really good job as Rain. Anna Taylor-Joy is good in everything, and having her be Magic was, again, very good. And like, yeah, it's not the fault of the actors at all.
Not at all. It's
just what they were given. And Murd, did you know what they were going to do in movies 2 and 3 of the proposed idea of this? Because the director came out afterwards. Originally, Warlock was going to be in this movie.
Awesome. And then Warlock is in the techno-organic entity, or just Cypher Doug Ramsey?
Both. Probably both, to be entirely honest with you. But yes, they were going to go. They were going to go Warlock. Then they decided to hold that for the second movie, which will never happen now. And then the third movie was going to be Inferno.
Well,
oh
wow,
that's interesting.
Yeah. So the what ifs in my brain right now of what would have happened. Yeah, just because I mean, again, all this is, proposed ideas, and for all I know, even if they had stayed with Fox, they would have never wound up doing it. But with a director that was interested in the property, Josh Boone is a comic book guy, and had an affinity for these characters. And I think had he been given the time and the effort to actually stay with it, he really could have done something great here. But instead, it's just a almost project, and that's what's the most disappointing about it.
And I mean, thank you for that field report, gentlemen.
Yeah,
because I wasn't going to go see it, but I'm glad you guys did fill us in on it. But this kind of reaffirms for me that I think, because remember, the X-Men franchise is 20 years old.
Yeah, more than that.
So
is it 1999?
I think
2000 was the first
2000.
one. So much has changed in movies, in the way we watch movies, in the technology, and all of that. That when Marvel inevitably reintroduces the X-Men universe, my peanut gallery opinion is that if you want to get to the core greatness of those concepts, which for me is really what Claremont did, it should be on television, because you can when you read the really classic X-Men stuff from the late 70s, the 1980s, it's so episodic, it's so serialized.
Yeah.
There's so many vital subplots and characterization. I mean, when I was reading X-Men, like I read the reprints of the 70s stuff, and then I was reading the excuse me, the Claremont 80s stuff was coming out. I was enraptured with the way he was developing the characters and the relationships. If they can take that and bring that into like a streaming platform on like Disney Plus, like that will blow people away, because we all know the potential greatness of the X-Men if if it's really properly applied.
Yeah.
Most people don't really know that yet. They know snatches from the cartoons, the movies, different things, but they really haven't been fully done to their potential. And now they have the technology. I sound like I'm talking about the Bionic Man now. They have the technology. They have the wherewithal and the room, right? Because it's Marvel Studios. It's enormous now. They could really do the X-Men properly. We could eventually really have the Dark Phoenix properly done.
Oh yeah.
Unlike that rotten film they did a couple of years ago.
Haven't seen that one yet.
You're good. You're good.
So, yeah, that one's rough.
So, I'm really excited. I mean, like Ian said, it's not going to be anytime soon, but hopefully in the years to come, they're going to go back to that source material and let the world know this is why this was the comic book that everybody was reading. If you're into superhero stuff in the 70s and 80s, because it was that good, and it can be that good again in this new format. So I really hope that's where the way they go.
And then once you establish it, if you don't give me X Factor Investigations as a Disney series, then we have a problem here, because talk about a series that's made for TV. Like that's there. Like, establish your X-Men first, sure, but then make that happen and we're good. And the other thing that this franchise didn't have is air harp.
Oh, what a segue. That chills.
Right in there.
The great Lavini. I feel so good now.
Coming to Disney Plus.
Extra air harpy today. I appreciate it. Yes, indeed, friends. It is time once again for Muddle the Murd, our trivia segment here on Comic Geek Speak, and Murd has more.
All right. Okay, so the point here of Muddle the Murd is it's the opportunity for you, the listeners, to send me, the Murd, some trivia questions to answer in the hopes of winning some fantastic prizes. So basically, if you would like to play along at home with Muddle the Murd, you need to come up with 3 comic book trivia questions, 1 Marvel question, 1 DC, and 1 about some other publisher. And the questions also need to break down chronologically to 1 question about comics from before 1970, 1 about comics published between 1970 and 2000 inclusive, and 1 about comics published after 2000. Come up with your 3 questions, make sure to include the answers to them, and put them into an email, address it to comicgeekspeak@gmail.com, and put Muddle the Murd in the subject line. And Quizmaster Ian here will ask those questions of me at some future date, and if I answer all 3 of them incorrectly, you will have muddled the Murd successfully, and you'll be entitled to that prize. And today's contestant is a lucky soul indeed, because he or she will be playing for the last remaining Drawer Boxes prize pack, which was offered to us sometime late last year by the Collection Drawer Company in celebration of their 15th anniversary. It's a pack of 5 drawer boxes, either the long box or short box size, Muddler's choice, and also some of their accessories, the box locks, anchors, and the box sort upright dividers thrown in. If you don't know what a drawer box is, it's like a comic book long box, but with a drawer that pulls out the front instead of a lid that lifts off the top for easier access of your
They're
collection.
wonderful.
Fantastic tool. I swear by them. And I'd be happy to give a set of those out as a prize if today's contest happens to muddle me.
Yes, indeed. And some general reminders. This has to be questions about the inside comic book. It cannot be about those Hostess ads. We are hungry for some cupcakes, but it's not happening. And also, do not go too specific with your questions, because if you ask us what color were Magic socks in New Mutants number 8, we're not going to answer it.
Page 4,
right
panel
out.
3.
Exactly. Page 4, panel 3, in between scenes. And this time around, we have Stockton Piner. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, because one Wonderful name. Absolutely
Great
love
name.
it.
Really?
And he has a preamble. Greetings, gentlemen. I have been a fan of the podcast for several years now. Thank you so much for all the hours of intelligent, humorous, and informative comics banter. I've been wanting to take a swing at muddling the Murd for some time now, but my knowledge of older comics is quite limited due to the fact that I started reading comics in my 30s, and I mostly read newer books. I guess I am the unicorn that people say doesn't exist, because I found my way to the source material through my enjoyment of comics-related movies and TV.
Wow.
Wow.
That's good.
Unicorn indeed. Unicorn.
Hell yeah.
Yep. I recently picked up a few older comics, so I thought it would be the perfect time to test my mettle against the magnificent Mr. Murdo. Without further ado, here are the questions. All right, we begin DC pre-1970.
Okay.
In Superman's girlfriend Lois Lane from 1963, written by Lee Dorfman with art by Kurt Schaffenberger, Lois manages to snap a photo of Superman changing into Clark Kent. In her haste to develop the film, she gets into a car accident which alters her personality. Must be a comic from pre-1970. Changing her into a ruthless female. She decides to use the picture she took as a means to blackmail Superman into marrying her, but her plans are derailed after she uses a rejuvenation spray she found at the Fortress of Solitude and is de-aged.
Wow. Gimmicks can be in one story.
I know, right? Undeterred, she uses the spray on Superman as well. With both of them looking like children, Lois goes about the difficult task of trying to find someone to officiate their wedding, including a blind justice of the peace and a ship's captain she knows. What is the name of the ship on which Lois attempts to marry Superman?
Oh, my Lord.
Oh my God. The fact that that's where it went. I love it.
Stockton, I salute you.
The Nautilus. I really have no hope of answering this correctly.
It's the SS Endovia. And it's over, and it's Endovia. All right.
That combination of letters was not going to pass my lips.
Exactly.
See, that question delightfully reminds me of all the wonderful ways Superman and Lois and Lana were just all jerks to each other in those stories back in those days.
Oh, you better believe it.
I remember I had a poster in my store of one cover where Superman is brutally dressing down Lois for being so stupid she couldn't recognize him when he had glasses on. It's just, I don't remember the issue number, but it's tremendous.
Which now just brings me back to the Lois and Clark show with that one guy from the future who comes back and is like, "You guys were that stupid." Clark Kent, Superman. Clark Kent, Superman.
He's greatly overly. He's very over the top in anything I've seen him in.
Yes, definitely. But oh my God, the just to get to where we got to for that answer, I'm so happy. All right, and moving on to Marvel 1970 to 2000. In Amazing Adventures number 6 to 8, written by Roy Thomas and Jerry Conway with art by Neil Adams, my oh my, Black Bolt has amnesia due to a psychic blast from Maximus the Mad. In this state, he gets incapacitated by an individual who wants to destroy part of the city they grew up in. Who is the person hoping to harness Black Bolt's image and power for his destructive purpose?
As I see the thoughtful look on Chris' face. Yes,
What issue Amazing Adventures was that?
6 to 8.
6 to 8.
6 through 8. Okay.
All right. So we're going to need a name from Inhumans lore here. Well, maybe not. All right. I'm going to go with kind of a dark horse option here. I'm going to use another Marvel Universe villain. I'm going to say Tyrannus.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Tyrannus.
Tyrannus. Peanut Gallery. Any chances? Any choices?
Not that
So
one.
I can visualize the covers to this story
Mm-hmm.
because I had them many times as a retailer. Wild guess, almost certainly wrong. Dr. Doom.
The answer, Lionel Dibbs.
Sure.
I have never heard of this character, but it sounds like he's out of The Simpsons.
Hey,
Final dibs, attorney at law.
that would constitute some kind of regulator.
Oh my
Shane,
God.
fantastic.
Yes.
I gotta look up Lionel Dibs now and be like, what the heck ever happened to this character?
It's like just a nebbishy little everyman that it's kind of a classic Marvel character idea, though.
Here's the screenshot for you. Not at all what I was expecting. Here we are as I scroll down. That's Lionel Dibs, Mr. Dibs.
Looks like a villain from a blaxploitation film.
Yeah, exactly.
They call him Mr. Dibs.
Dibs, Mr. Dibs. Well, there we go.
Okay, I think I can see where Roy was coming from there.
Yep. And here we are with our final question of the evening.
All right, Stockton, you might be on your way to a spiffy new set of drawer boxes.
Indeed. Let's try independent post-2000. Spencer and Lark from Action Labs' Danger Zone imprint, written by David Pepose, with art by Jorge Santiago Jr., poses the question, what if Calvin and Hobbes grew up in Sin City and became hard-boiled detectives? That's a good question.
Yep.
When
We're
Detective
familiar with Spencer and Locke here. We plugged it on the air a couple of times.
Indeed. When Detective Locke's childhood sweetheart Sophie Jenkins is murdered, he turns to the only friend who can help him solve the case, his imaginary panther named Spencer. In issue 3 of the series, Detective Locke is captured, beaten, and drugged. In this altered state, he takes on a persona similar to Spaceman Spiff from Calvin and Hobbes. What is the name of Detective Locke's alter ego in his psychedelic drug-fueled rampage?
All right, Hail Mary time. Just
Sometimes he lands it, though.
try to get myself into David Pepose's headspace here, and what analog to Spaceman Spiff would he have come up with? Astronaut Albert.
Ooh, your alliteration game is on point. However, you just got muddled.
Ugh.
The correct answer, Rocket Man Reynolds.
Not bad, Murd. Not bad.
That's pretty darn
I was
close.
within a parsec.
Yeah.
Yep, you were. Thank you very much for considering my Muddle the Murd submission. Sincerely, Stockton Piner. And Stockton, good job.
Stockton, you're here.
We raise our mason jars to you, and your prize is on the way. And I'm pretty sure the folks at Collection Drawer Company will be happy to close this page of their ledger. Finally gave away that last prize pack.
Yes, indeed. Yep, and now I can wipe my brow and probably start bringing back people from Canada as Muddle the Murd submissions. Because
Yes, folks who live outside the lower 48 United States were not eligible for this particular prize.
yes, indeed. But yeah, job well done all around there. So yep, good job. Now let's talk some comics, shall we?
Yes.
I think we should.
Indeed. Chris, how about I start it off with you? What you been reading?
I got a trove here. So let me just start with this first. So I've been reading Immortal Hulk in trade because we just did our episode where we did our book of the month on volumes 1 and 2.
Mhm.
And I just read volume 8, The Keeper of the Door. And we all know what the door is, of course. It covered issues 36 to 40. And the series is ending at issue 50, is it not, Ian?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Yeah. So
You're such an overachiever.
and the love we demonstrated for this book in our book of the month, at least for me, has carried over all the way through. This is easily continues to be one of the greatest series being published today in American comic books.
Yep.
And I mean this in the best possible way, as creeped out as we were by those first 2 volumes, as horrified as we were by how good the stories were in terms of the horror element, and wow, they do not let up at all, ladies and gentlemen. Ewing and Bennett and Company, and volume 8. I don't want to give away anything, obviously, but everything that we loved in those first 2 volumes and stuff we were anticipating and hoping for. I encourage all my colleagues and listeners to stay with this series because it is, whenever the day comes that, you know, Marvel Comics are no more in some way and they're doing a retrospective of everything, wow, this is going to be way up there because this is, there's always those rare moments when a character that has been around for so long is revitalized because a creative team just finds a new perspective, and that's very much what this is. And it's so good. And I'll just say one word: leader. So it's amazing.
My favorite big-headed villain.
Well, I don't want to get too dirty here about the family program, Ian, but there's plenty of head to come.
Oh,
all right, now,
wow.
now.
Whatever, Uncle Sal.
I was about to make a Hector Hammond reference, but no, I can't follow that.
No.
Superb, Chris.
Amazing.
All right, honored Murd. So I've talked about this many times on the air.
You sure have.
Ed Brubaker, Michael Lark, and Sean Phillips, Scene of the Crime. Now, this is not the first thing Ed Brubaker did, but it's one of the earliest works of his career as a comic book scribe. And I read it years ago. I think it came out in the late 90s. And I think I read it in like one of its earlier trade incarnations when I had my store like in the early 2000s, and I loved it. And I think it might have been one of my first exposures to Brubaker's work and Michael Lark and Sean Phillips, who was inking. And it's a fantastic crime noir about a private eye, and he's investigating a cult and what happens. That's all I'm going to say, because the creative team should be enough. And they just reissued, the trade had been out of print for a long time. They just reissued it through Image. It had been a Vertigo title originally. And I hadn't read it in years. And Brubaker writes an essay just that he wrote now, basically reflecting on the whole process of this early work and, you know, him thinking about what it means to him now. It's a wonderful essay, but this is an early example of why he was then and was going to end up being one of the greatest writers in comics today. This is still great. It holds up wonderfully. I wish they'd done more with this particular character, the private eye, Jack Harriman, who's the protagonist of the story. If you love the Brubaker, Sean Phillips work, if you love Michael Lark's work, if you want to get a great example of sort of early in their career and then developing the styles we all know and love, definitely pick up Scene of the Crime. You will not be disappointed.
Excellent. And then there's Black Hammer Visions.
So I've loved Patton Oswalt as a comedian. I've loved, you know, him, his appearances in different television and movies. But holy crap, can he write?
I'm happy to hear it.
This is tremendous. So Ian, you've read Black Hammer. Murd, have you read it?
Have I? Well, haven't read up to it yet.
But you've read some of, you know, the basic concept.
Oh, I know the premise, all right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Shane, you have not read it yet, correct?
No.
Okay, so not I don't want to ruin much, but basically the character of Golden Gale, who in the game was well in the story, she is a adult hero who is the reverse of Shazam. When she says her magic word, she becomes a super powerful child. And in the story, she's now trapped in this form. And Patton Oswalt takes the concept and goes, okay, so if Golden Gale's stuck in this town and they're trying to make it seem like she's an actual child, what if she went to school? And then what would happen if the other kids are growing up and she's not? And they keep kind of like having her appear in school, like in different iterations. And then what if one of the older teenagers goes, wait a minute, isn't that the kid I went to like third grade with? That's all I have to say.
Wow.
It's awesome. It is awesome. And Oswalt wonderfully captures the whole spirit of the Black Hammer universe. This is a great, like, you know, this is supposed to be an anthology about that whole world. This is a wonderful first issue.
Excellent.
And it's
I'm happy to
poignant. It's funny. It's also about like moving on as a teenager and what that means. Wonderful. I was so happy with that.
I'm so glad that MODOK knows how to write a comic. I'm so happy.
So we talked about this in one of our previews episodes.
Hmm.
Yes, Avengers Curse of the Man Thing.
Yeah, because this year is the Man Thing's 50th anniversary. I've always had a soft spot for the character, and I loved a lot of the Bronze Age stuff, the Steve Gerber stuff especially. I always talk about that wonderful, I think it was issue 5, where they made a power record where, he has to try to save the circus clown. What's the name of that story? Oh, hell. It's classic, but Mike Plugart. So this this revisits the Man Thing's history, like the Nexus, and it really goes a lot more into Ted Sallis, who is, of course, the human who became like the human sort of host of the Man Thing in a sense.
Yeah.
And they're kind of exploring the Man Thing's connection to the Nexus and the swamp and how it's affected Ted Sallis, which we don't really get as much throughout the Man Thing's history. And they also do they do an interesting take on the formula that Sallis was working on, that he injects into himself, and AIM is coming for him in in all the original stories. So this brings in the Avengers. It's Steve Orlando, a writer that I know Murd enjoys, art by Francesco Mobili. Really interesting story. Just to give you an example of like some of the artwork here, of the way they capture the Man Thing in it.
Very nice.
But it's a 3-part. I just got the first part. They're gonna do a Spider-Man issue. I don't remember what the third one's going to be, but
X-Men.
X-Men. Thank you, Murd. And they bring in the Avengers in this one. Really interesting because it's really respectful of the history of the character, which is scattered over a lot of different like titles and magazines and different things. But they kind of do a deep dive into areas of the Man Thing's history that maybe we hadn't really thought about before. So if you're interested in the character, I highly recommend it. It was really fun. I didn't order 2 and 3, but I'll probably go pick them up at a nearby shop because I'm interested to see where the story is going to go. So the fact that I'm willing to go and actually buy the issues at a comic store tells you that I like the first one enough to do that. So the other thing I wanted to talk about, and then I'll surrender the mic. So I had fallen behind on the Rorschach series by Tom King, Jorge Fornes, and Dave Stewart. Forgive me if I mispronounced Jorge's name there. So I read issues thank you. I read issues 4, 5, and 6 in one sitting. Man, I know I'm a broken record, ladies and gentlemen, but I stick with my I want to be very authentic in my praise here. Tom King remains one of the best writers in comics right now. Because, and you know what? I think this story is going to work even better in a trade, because when I read the 3 issues in one sitting, I was like, this is amazing. And the first couple I read month to month, I enjoyed them, but I enjoyed this experience far more.
Yeah.
And I think that's the case with a lot of books, that at least for me as a reader, like that's where my taste is going. I'm enjoying the stuff. Like Immortal Hulk and Trade is just mind blowing. And this Rorschach story. So again, the gist of it, we talked about this in the past probably, is that it's after the events of Watchmen. It's after, the conspiracy with the squid and all of that stuff. But there's an assassination attempt against a presidential candidate. And the people killed, one is the guy who's in a Rorschach suit, and then there's this young woman who tried to make this candidate, and they're foiled in their attempt. And the story is about this investigator trying to find out who these people are, because the man who's dressed up as Rorschach has identifying marks that they think might actually be the real Rorschach, who we of course know is dead. But the people in that world don't necessarily know that, because remember, he's killed out in the Arctic, wherever it was, by Ozymandias. Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah.
So what King does, and what these 3 issues really bring home, is that he's exploring who these 2 people were. And what's really unsettling about this book, and it's very timely, he's really exploring the impact of conspiracy theories. Topical, isn't it? On people's sense of identity and where they are in their lives, and how it can motivate them to do certain things.
Yeah.
And basically, there's a part of the American community in this world who believe the squid attack was real, and that they think it's going to happen again. and the girl is part of this, like, was raised by her father to like he's training her to like fight like when this happens again, and she connects with this old comic book writer, like almost like a golden age type writer or artist, I should say, and they kind of form this bond. And in the stories I've read, the last thing I'll say is a lot of it is King writes the letters they're writing to each other, and the sense of loneliness and loss, it's so real, because when you read these letters, you know people like this exist in our reality, who are in places like this in their life. um it's some of the most powerful writing I've seen in a comic book this year. So I can't recommend this story enough. If you love the Watchmen universe, or if you just want to read a writer at the top of his game, get Rorschach, man. It
Nice.
is. I was, as much as I was enjoying it, I actually almost got emotional, because the letters, like the girl, she's like, I don't know, 19 or 20. He's like this very older man who's like kind of at the end of his life, and he's like beaten down by what he went through, and the way they kind of find each other and like connect through these letters, it's so powerful, and it's so, it's real, like, and again, the way he explores just the allure and power and self-destructive power of conspiracy theories, which I think it's fair to say our nation is dealing with right now. um it's very much a part of the story, and it's devastating. Wow, what a series.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to reading it in full once it's all
And that's how I would recommend it, because I got so much more when I read those 3 issues in one shot.
got it.
So
Awesome.
that's my field report, gentlemen.
Excellent. Murd, you got anything to share?
Well, I decided I was going to have something to share, Ian. Just wanted to be able to talk about something topical for once, instead of just deferring everyone to the time bubble once again. So I went to the upper strata of my to-be-read pile and got out the first 2 issues of something that, well, thanks to the pandemic, we all had to wait about a year longer than we thought we'd have to experience. And it's something from a great creative team. The first couple issues of Non-Stop Spider-Man.
Ah,
Brought
nice.
to you by Joe Kelly and Chris Pacello.
Oh,
And the idea behind this series is it's really fast-paced, high-octane Spider-Man storytelling. It's very action-oriented. It's very self-consciously modeled on action movie filmmaking. Yeah, but it's action movie filmmaking of prior decades, I should point out, because it's really, I mean, they're trying to be cutting edge with this. It's a kind of a new approach to telling Spider-Man stories, but call it dated, call it retro, whatever's your pleasure. But to me, it feels like it would have been more cutting edge if it had come out like 15 years ago.
Got it.
Just listening to there's a text piece from the editor Nick Lowe at the back of the first issue, which says that their model going was to try to create the Spider-Man comic book equivalent of Speed, with Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock, which takes us back to the mid '90s.
yep.
Yeah.
And a secondary influence they
Wow.
mentioned was the film Crank, starring Jason Statham, which was
Oh, wow.
2006.
Wow.
I would throw in there also the movie Go, which was released right around the end
Oh
of the
God.
Oh, there's now I'm trying to remember. There was a Joseph Gordon-Levitt movie that was like a one giant chase scene with that was excellent. It's like him on a bicycle going around the streets of New York.
I dimly remember that, Ian. Yes.
Yeah,
Oh.
that I really enjoyed. That I'm trying to find the name of.
I remember. I didn't see it, but I remember seeing like the promos for it.
Premium
Oh.
Rush. Premium Rush.
Okay.
That's what
Okay.
it was. Yep.
Yeah,
Yes.
which is a term used by bike messengers, I think.
Yes, indeed. Yep.
So there we go. I might throw Hardcore Henry in there too, but
Okay.
now that was all action all the time, but from like a first person perspective, like the whole thing was from a first person camera.
Hmm.
But yeah, so they're not quite going for that in Nonstop Spider-Man, but all the action sequences, interesting visual presentation here. I don't know if you can see it on screen, but yeah, it doesn't come across very well. But any time an action sequence begins in this comic, the panels begin to appear in greater profusion, and they're very slickly laid out, and they're all done on a diagonal. It's like a Dutch tilt effect. Which is, to me at least, it seems kind of indicative of filmmaking and presentation techniques of action movie filmmakers of the mid 2000s. But yeah, it's very fast paced, and it's The story of the first arc is called Big Brain Play, and it involves a Spider-Man. Yep, there we go. I was just looking at that very same page a moment ago. It's the first two-page splash on pages 2 and 3 of issue number 1. So Spider-Man, we're dropped right in the middle of the action, of course. Spider-Man is investigating the mysterious deaths of a few bright young college-age people in the New York area, and it's related to kind of a classic comics trope by now, the mysterious designer drug that's been appearing on the streets. And this one targets intelligent young people. Apparently, the idea is it's in pill form. They take it, and it gives them a bit of a brain boost, but the side effect is the short-term brain boost leads to a permanent loss of their faculties, and they die with their gray matter rendered oddly smooth. So basically, it's
Well, that's not a good business model anyway. But...
well, it is actually, because it's the people taking the pills are not the customers, you see. It's the whole point is the drug is a way to harvest the brain power of the young people taking it.
Got it.
And then sell that off and transfer it elsewhere to the highest bidder. So Spider-Man finds himself fighting a couple of dumb thugs who are suddenly unaccountably brilliant. And apparently that's tied into this designer drug, which is called A+.
Imagine if Madman and Marco became unaccountably brilliant. Wow.
I wouldn't put it past Kelly to try that here, actually. So it's Spider-Man and supporting character Nora Winters, I think her name is, who's been around the Spidey books for a few years now. I think she's working as a online journalist for whatever that online version of the Bugle was that Jonah Jameson had a while ago. Two of them are they're out on the town investigating this together, and it's as the title implies. I mean, if I were Homer Simpson, I'd be wanting my money back, because at the end of every issue, it does in fact stop. False advertising, just like the never-ending story. But yeah,
it's
tremendous.
While each issue lasts, it is surprisingly breakneck, and it's got that great Joe Kelly dialogue, which is very smart and sharp. It does a little extra engage from the reader, though, because
that's good to hear.
Kelly does sometimes come at the subject matter for his dialogue a bit askance, and it's not always the most linear presentation of dialogue, but it's worth it in the long run. So yeah, and there's a couple of scenes in here. In the first issue, there's a backup story, actually, also written by Kelly, but penciled by Dale Eaglesham, in which we're introduced to the person who's going to be the villain of this first arc. And it is... well, I'll just go ahead and tell you. This is supposed to be spoiler heavy anyway. It's Baron Helmut Zemo. Yes, being written and dialogued in a style that's it seems to me pretty clearly intended to invoke the Daniel Brühl, the sassier version of Zemo, as seen in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Yes, and art-wise, those of you who are fans of Baccello's work from back when, I must admit, if I hadn't seen his byline, if I didn't look closely at some of the faces of the characters in some of the panels, I might not have doped out that this was his work. I don't know whether it's just because there are so many other... the man was ahead of his time back in the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
I can agree.
Absolutely.
But there's been an influx of people drawing in a style similar to his in comics in the past couple of decades. So maybe his artwork just doesn't stand out that well as a result of that, or maybe he's just undergone kind of a stylistic evolution over the years, and he doesn't look as much like Baccello as he used to.
Especially in the face that I just hear on the screen, like that's not your standard Baccello face. Like everything else about it looks familiar, but especially when he was drawing, for example, X-Men, and he had those hyper designed facial features and what have you, and even Spider-Man back in the day. That amazing arc he did with Jenkins, that Green Goblin arc.
That was Humberto Ramos.
Oh, that was Ramos. My mistake.
Yep.
I'm sorry. He did Brand New Day at times, and it was sort of back and forth between Ramos and Baccello. But this was long after the Jenkins stuff. You're right about that, Chris. But either way, a very different looking Peter than what we get here.
Yep, I agree. That particular image you're showing there, Ian, reminds me more of a cross between like a Tim Sale face and a llama. Yeah,
that would be the quote of the episode.
Oh boy,
I'd be honored.
And a llama.
and a lot. Yeah, right. Yeah, so it's there are glimpses of the Bocello we knew, but you have to look a little harder to find them.
Yep.
I don't know whether that's because of he's working in a different kind of panel layout to try to evoke the action movie mystique that they're going for here, but. Yeah, it's so Bocello fans might be a little disconcerted by what they see here. But if you're a fan of action movies of the 2000s, and also a fan of Spider-Man and a fan of Joe Kelly's writing, Kelly, it's on point here. I mean, Kelly said it feels a little dated in that it seems to be evoking action movies of a decade or two ago, but Kelly is sprinkling in some ultra contemporary references to try to compensate. So yeah, if you like Kelly's work, if you like action movies of the period stated, and if you're just a fan of Spidey and would like to see a more high adrenaline take on his adventures, this might be a kind of publishing experiment to which you would take well. So
All right.
I kind of give it a qualified endorsement. Nonstop.
Excellent.
Thank you, Murd.
Fast and the Furious Spider-Man it is. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, well, that means the Spider-Mobile would have to make an appearance.
Oh,
I'd be for it. I'd be
hell yeah.
for it.
I would be.
Shane, you read anything?
I'm just trying to sink my teeth back into the volume 3 or 4 of the G.I. Joe comics I have. Trying to get back track on that. I will say, though, I don't think I've been on since when we talked about, I've missed the last previews. I am very excited for Blue and Gold.
Yes. Yes.
That could not have been, that's been way too long for something like that to come. So that's very exciting for me.
And Jurgens is involved, correct?
Yeah. You couldn't get much better. Well, you could a little bit if the artist, not that that's a bad artist. I forget who's doing it, but I would have liked somebody a little bit more classic to my taste in Brewster Gold and Blue Beetle, but hey, this is fine. It still looks fantastic and I can't wait.
Definitely. Yep. Yeah. I mean, you're right. It's a long time coming because we haven't had this sort of action out of them in quite some time. Since they were in the year 3000, basically.
Yeah. And that's, gosh, now that's years ago.
Yep. I'll share my one reading that I managed to actually do this past week.
Right.
I read the first 2 issues of The Wrong Earth, Night
I
and
have
Day.
them.
Yep. Tom Peyer, Jamal Igle, and Juan Castro on the creative chores here, and this picks up a year after the previous miniseries. So at this point, both Dragonfly and Dragonfly Man are well entrenched in each other's universes, and they're trying to make it work. And clearly, Dragonfly seems to be a lot. He managed to make things work a little bit better than what Dragonfly Man has made it work. Because it's kind of easier for the gritty guy to fall into being a little bit nicer than the nice guy dealing with 90s Punisher. Like it's a problem, to say the least. And also pollution is attacking both of their worlds, and something is the cause. And then all of a sudden, the mirrors that led to the two of them winding up in each other's Earths reappear, and we finally get that crossover between the two of them. But it's neither of their Earths that are the issue behind this new pollution that's ruining both of their worlds, and they have to try to figure out, is there a third that may be the problem here? Is there something else?
Progression. If there's Earth 1 and Earth 2, there must be an Earth 3 that's worse than either of them.
Exactly, Murd, and we are definitely heading there in the storytelling here. And I love the progression. Even though a year has passed, a lot has changed, but things are still the same. And also, we get the introduction of the best Silver Age name for a female character, Lady Dragonfly Man. Like,
I don't know. Remember back in the early 90s, Valentino did a Silver Age take on Shadowhawk, and I think we were introduced to Lady Shadowhawkette in that one shot. That's up there too.
Yeah, but and this is a love interest for Dragonfly, the gritty one. Clearly she was the love interest for Dragonfly Man, but she seems to kind of like Dragonfly a little bit more, which is now gonna draw, like, does he stay or does he go? Implications going forward. All while Dragonfly Man is dealing with his new his new sidekick that kind of just wants to shoot people. Like that's kind of his deal. Like rather than take asking questions first and then fighting second. Nah, he's all about just getting the problem out of the way. And Dragonfly Man's not too thrilled about that. So it's really well done. Tom Pyre continues to be an excellent writer. Shock of Shocks, Jamal Igo continues to be an excellent draftsman, and Juan Castro on top of that just makes it even prettier. I could easily see this being my best miniseries of the year once it's all said and done. And I'm happy to see it back. So, very much enjoying The Wrong Earth so far.
Is Tom Pye the writer of that Our Man series you all praise?
Yes, indeed.
Which I still have not read. I have to read that.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
Yep, when we did our top 5 underrated creators in comics, he was way up at the top of my list.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and he's also worked with Mark Waid a bunch as well.
Yep. Matter of fact, I'm just now reading the Spider-Man House of M miniseries that those two co-wrote.
Oh, wow. That's a good one too, Murd. Yeah, I really enjoyed that when it was coming out. But yeah, no, very happy to see more Wrong Earth in any form and continuing the main story. That just makes me even happier. So. It's really all I've had a chance to read these last couple of weeks, but looking forward to hopefully reading more as the weeks progress. Once I get a new iPad, we'll see about that. It's going to take a little while because my old one is really starting to show its age. Whenever I try to launch any of the Marvel or DC apps, it's like, yeah, you're funny. And it just goes ahead and crashes on me.
Ian, we all do what we can when we can.
Amen to that. All right, gentlemen, anything else, or have we shot our bolts?
I think we've shot our bolts.
The only other thing I'm doing is trying to keep a lookout for this Target exclusive Major Blood. I absolutely
Boy Hunter's Lament.
cringe when I hear Cobra Island Target exclusive, but
oh boy.
I love when Shane gets wrathful about his toy hunting. It's tremendous.
Oh my
God. It shouldn't be this hard. Thank God I'm really only seeking out G.I. Joes because I'd go nuts if I was doing Transformers, Star Wars, and all that crap too.
Yeah. Well, by next comic talk, I'll hopefully have seen the first of the Impulse episodes of The Flash. As I know they're introducing Impulse on it, and that costume looks amazing.
Yeah, I have to get caught up.
I saw your photos. It does look great.
I'm woefully behind on Flash. I have one more episode of Superman and Lois, and I'm behind on everything else. I just completely forget it's on because I don't watch regular TV.
I'm caught up on Legends at least, so I'm ready for the first episode of that new season.
Yeah, I'm ready for that one. But
Murd, have you been watching them by any chance? How far behind are you?
I think I've got 2 episodes to go on The Flash.
Okay.
Last one I watched was the one with the 90s.
Yeah,
that's the one I'm on. Yeah, that's what I have to watch.
Yeah, I'm caught up on Superman and Lois, though. That's been very good.
Yeah, that has been very good.
Chris, there's an episode of Legends of Tomorrow that even if you don't watch the rest of it, you should just go straight to where
What's it called?
I'll have to find the name of it, but it's the second to last episode of the most recent season where they're stuck in the TV.
Yes, that's enough.
Yeah, and there's a Star Trek motif and there's a Friends motif.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Well, I've noticed on HBO Max they have the Superman show on there, so
that's only until the 18th. That comes off of HBO Max on the 18th. Yeah, you can still catch it on CW's app.
Yeah, but there are commercials.
And that's why I was watching on HBO. So I got one more episode of that.
All right, I didn't know there was a limitation. How many episodes of that show has there been so far?
5.
6, I think.
5 or 6,
maybe
and then it took a break, but it's coming back soon.
Yeah, like next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, they basically put it up there because Max helped co-produce it, so that's another reason why it looks so good.
That makes sense.
It has the extra budget, so I guess they're just putting it on there so that you'll catch up and want to watch it as it's airing on the main W.
I think Stargirl comes out in August. I saw an announcement.
Yeah. Yep.
It's an odd time.
Can't wait for that.
Me either.
Not wait either. The episode in question, Chris, by the way, it's in season 5, the one where we're trapped on TV.
And
Okay,
it's
easy enough to
probably
remember
on Netflix.
It is, yes,
Yeah.
yeah, because that's where I caught up. I was about five
Yeah.
episodes behind, and I
Thank you, sir.
watched the rest of the season on there. Yep. Alrighty. So once again, we're sponsored by you, the listeners, over at patreon.com/comicgeekspeak. So thank you all so much for your continued support over there. And we'll keep on keeping on as long as you keep on keeping on. That's what matters most there. And youtube.com/comicgeekspeak for the video versions. I did actually just put up a quote unquote video version of the most recent Crisis tapes. It's just the audio version with a fun visual. But anybody who wants to listen to it on YouTube now has the opportunity. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
and
keep that in mind.
thank you for setting that up, Ian.
Yep, absolutely my pleasure. All right, Shane, you ready?
Gippers.
Cheney
Okay.
Poo.
Over to you.
All right. Visit us at comicgeekspeak.com to send us an email. The address is comicgeekspeak@gmail.com. To leave a voicemail, the number is 267-702-6642. Stop by thecomicforums.vanillacommunity.com. Check us out on youtube.com/comicgeekspeak. Let us know what you think of our comic talk, things we might have missed, things you're reading. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook. Thanks to everyone who contributes to the episode, sends in Muddle the Murds. Please send some more in. Thanks to Drawer Boxes for sponsoring the prizes for the Muddle the Murds. It's very much appreciated. And as always, we are uniting the world's mightiest heroes, one listener at a time.
You know, I'm clearly gonna have to come with props next time. I just didn't think of that.
Well,